All right, so really important topic this morning is I want to know your opinion on the Battle of Ontario. Is it going to be Toronto or Ottawa that's going to win this?
What battle?
Hockey.
Oh,
What battle? Hand over your citizenship.
Oh yeah. Elroy's gonna be all over that.
Yeah. I think my view is clear. It's
Yeah,
going to be the
I-
Leafs.
I think so. I think so too. I think it's going to be a tough series. Ottawa's been one of the hottest teams. So, anyways, I just wanted to get that out there, just so everybody was aware. There's a big battle going on. It's not the election. It's actually Ottawa playing Toronto. So, all right. So interest rates.
Scott,
Yeah. What's that?
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, my son and I are going to the Maple Leaf game tonight. 42 years ago, last time we went, probably last time they made a serious run at the playoffs. We got tickets to take him to the game when he was 10 years old. He's now 52. But anyway, got tickets again. And anyway, back then when we went, we saw the St. John Leafs play, not the Toronto Maple Leafs. They set out Palmatier and, the players are all out there. They're all like junior or intermediate players. Anyway, I expect the same thing tonight, but.
I would say that because they've clinched, you're not going to see any of the big names out there.
No, exactly. But still costs the same money for the tickets.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to pay for it. Marilyn won them at her Christmas party in December. So anyway,
Nice.
but
Well,
anyway, nice
have
day
fun.
to go to Toronto.
Yep, it'll be a good game anyways. It'll be lots of fun.
Yep.
All right, so interest rates didn't move, right? Anybody know why?
yeah, because of what has happened last month or
Okay.
two. Yeah, I mean, because of tariffs, this and that. They said at least because of this uncertainty still going on a little bit. So just leave it the way it is. At least not not raising.
So here, any other thoughts? Why you think the interest rate did not go down as everybody was hoping it would?
I'm confused. Why didn't they?
Why? Okay. Understand that for an economy to be strong, you need to have foreign investment. If the return on their money is low, they're not going to invest. The interest rate, mortgage interest rate, the fixed rates followed the bond. Okay. So the bond rate did not actually go down. They were thinking that it might, and actually the mortgage companies reduced rates last week, thinking that the interest rate would go down. And actually on Friday, the fixed went up because the bond did not move. Okay, so right now you have if you look back, the Canadian dollar hit a low of about 67 cents a couple of weeks ago. It's over 70. So they're looking at that as being, there are still people interested in investing in Canada, safe haven, therefore can't reduce the bond rates because they're actually investing in the 10-year bonds. So why then, if the dollar is bouncing back a little bit, you have the bond rate not going down, then reducing the mortgage rate didn't make sense. It wasn't going to have an impact. Okay, so they look at that and go, right now, and this is based on a couple different economists that I follow and a couple bankers that I follow. So the reason is the next opportunity is June, I believe. In the event that, one, you get the election over, we see what kind of impact that has on the economy. Two, if the bond rate down in the States starts going down, then the Canadian bond can go down a little bit. But if it doesn't, then they're not going to move it. If they adjusted the rate now, then, and if it doesn't, then it wasn't going to actually have an impact. There was nothing that it was going to stimulate. So why move it? Right? Let's get the election over. Let's find out who's going to be in power. Let's find out what's actually happening with the tariffs and what the impacts are, because that changes daily. So in the event that they needed a stimulus down the road, then that's when they're going to look at cutting. And if the cut is possibly a 0.5 point, that's going to stimulate it. A quarter now was going to do exactly what a quarter reduction did last time, which was nothing. Okay, so just wanted to let everybody understand where and why the thought of the Bank of Canada was. Any comments? Okay. What does that mean for our real estate market in Ontario? The question.
Rates are pretty stable,
Okay.
right?
You-
Like back in the 80s and, well, before the need.
Yep. So welcome to the real life of real estate. Okay. This is a marketplace that is a normal real estate market. Means you have to talk to more people, you have to carry more listings, you have to deal with more buyers. And as of right now, just on TREP, PropTex, not on One Point, not on Ottawa, not on Sudbury, but just on the TREP, PropTex, since April 1st, sales of condominiums and freeholds sits at 4,037 units. Stuff is being sold. Okay. And that is condos, freeholds. So you're talking even like, and that is, and I looked at it, it covers a lot of area because there's properties in Niagara Falls that are put on the Toronto Real Estate Board. There's properties in Peterborough that are put on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Properties up where Elroy and Nancy are that are put on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Okay. Even stuff in Sudbury is put on the Toronto Real Estate Board. So it covers a large area. Properties are selling. Okay. And to get your percentage of those sales, you have to look at how and who are you dealing with, right? And go back and look at your ABCDs. When I say ABCDs, you have to look at and categorize any of the prospects you're working with, anybody in the database that you're working with, okay? And you really have to focus on who is in a position right now to make a decision and why. Well, if you find a seller that unfortunately cannot afford where they are anymore because they went from a very low variable rate of 1.8 or 2, and now they're up higher, even though the variable came down, lots of them are in a position where they still can't afford it. Okay, that's an A. They've got to sell. Okay, another A would be if you work with seniors in any way. Okay, seniors that are in a house that they can no longer maintain. Okay, or if they're in a building, like even a condominium building, and I know Jim Common works a lot with this in where his office is, they're in a position where they can no longer maintain the property. They are looking at moving. Okay, that's an A. So if you're doing any of your prospecting, look and see where you can find those niches of people in this kind of market that do need to move. Okay, so the only way you're going to be able to do that is go through all your database first, right? And then look at in your marketplace, and maybe it's just outside your marketplace. Look for the opportunities where situations like this could arise, because those are people, doesn't matter what the market is, they're going to look at moving because they have to. Okay. The other way that I would look at is look for any opportunity of attracting buyers. Now, there's something happening out there right now that is a major, major opportunity. Doesn't matter where you are in Ontario, okay? If you actually go, and I did this, I basically just put in freehold and I started with no price and I gradually just went and looked at every listing, okay? Looking for an opportunity. I found a cottage, yeah, basically a rundown cottage on Lake Erie with a boat ramp, with water frontage, okay? For under $600,000. $565,000. Okay? Yeah, it needs work. Absolutely, it needs work.
No offer date?
No offer date.
But what-
Okay. So to me, I look at that, yeah, it's outside my backyard. But I got on the phone and started calling some of my contractors. Right? Contractors right now, a lot of them are not as busy as they were before because people are sort of just sitting on their money. That's an opportunity. Right? If you can find something where, and what's nice about contractors is sometimes if they can't afford to do it themselves, they'll partner up with other people that are doing that, right? I've seen it where I've got a carpenter and a plumber that do stuff together. And they'll go, okay, well, now we'll bring in this person, we'll bring in that person. And they look at buying, fixing, and either selling or renting it for a year or two and then selling. Because as a contractor, they can actually do the work at much cheaper, right? Because it's half the battle of doing renovations is labor. So I looked at that as an opportunity. So if you haven't looked at that as an opportunity, then it might be something that go through even all your contacts and just reach out to your contractors. And just say, hey, you know what? Came across some great opportunities. Do you know if it's not you, are there any of your other, associates, anybody you've worked with that you know would be interested in buying property that is really at a reduced value? Okay, so that's one. So I kept going through it. And ironically enough, I was up in Wasaga Beach on the weekend, looked at a couple of our listings up there, and I came across this one. And Elroy, you might be more familiar with this. It's on 38th Street North. It is a brick, 2-story built on slab. Okay, on a 50 by 175 foot lot. Okay, it has 7 bedrooms. Okay, 7 bedrooms, forced air gas. It has space to do a backyard secondary building. Under power of sale, came out at $499,000.
So you want my input on that one? I
Yeah.
walked through it on Monday with a buyer.
Yeah,
It has 8 bedrooms, actually. There's a
Okay.
mistaken listing. It sold Monday night, 5 offers on it for 605.
you're right. That to me is an opportunity, right?
Yeah, it flew.
I don't know if the camera could get that, but just pull the house right up. $604,000. Like, as the contractor, if you had those people ready to go, that's a deal. The one on the lake is a deal. Like, so where I made my note here is we have realty executives people all over Ontario, right? Not saying you have to run around the province, but just take your time and just go through every listing, right? It's amazing that, if you're not busy and people are going, well, I'm not that busy, what should I be doing? Get to know the marketplace. There are opportunities out there, right? And it'd be simple as just contacting even agents in the area where that opportunity is. And go like, is this a real deal? And maybe you have those conversations with the contractors, have the conversations with investors and go, I know you may have been a condo investor, but forget the condo market. Here's another avenue. Like for $604,000, if you put $100,000 into that place, Elroy,
Yeah.
renting the top and bottom, like that's got to be a deal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I walked through it. It's probably going to need about 150 because all the water lines to the whole place are frozen, split, and there's drywall damage everywhere. But
Yeah.
I told my guy, I said, if he fixed it and flipped it, he'd probably get 900 tomorrow morning for it.
There you go. Okay. So opportunities. There are all kinds of opportunities out there. You got to look for them. Even in the condo market, there's opportunities. One of the biggest opportunities that I'm finding in the condo market is luxury townhouses that are condominiums. They're getting slammed because they're all bunched in with the condo, right? But they're great values. Like there's some properties out there that are condominium townhouses that are 2,000, 2,200 square feet, like just beautiful places. And lots of times they attract people that are moving down from a larger detached house. They'll sell that detached house and buy that condominium townhouse. One, they don't have to worry about maintaining the outside, right? But they're getting slammed with the same category as a condominium. Okay? To me, there's an opportunity there. Look for those opportunities in that kind of product. Okay? Other thing to realize is when you're talking with sellers in this kind of market, where there's not really any urgency, sellers are going to take a lot longer to get ready. They're going to, especially if they're seniors, okay? It's always in this kind of marketplace, especially when, one, we haven't had the weather we need to do any outside work. Two, usually family members are really busy, so they need help to get the houses ready. It's taking longer. You as a realtor, you have to be really, really patient. Okay? Because it is going to take longer. They are eventually going to do something, but the easiest decision for them is just to push it longer. And it's usually because they really don't want to be moving, but they have to. Right? So be patient if you're dealing with that kind of scenario. And there's lots of those out there right now. Okay, so you got to just be patient, keep checking in, seeing if there's anything you can do to help, but don't get frustrated with the fact that I know everybody wants, as a realtor, you want to get that listing to the market sooner, but you got to be patient because they are just going to take a little bit longer I'm dealing with 3 of them right now. And yeah, we're getting to it. We're getting to it. Yeah, well, we couldn't do it this week. No problem. You want me to come by and see if I can help in any way?
And second time.
Right? You were mentioning that you've got people, same idea, where it's just everything's going to get delayed. You got to have some patience. Okay. Other things to realize is the market is still there. Buyers are out there, but they're looking for, just as we discussed, either opportunity or value. Okay. Opportunity is something like the one on Lake Erie, the one that was in Wasaga Beach. That's a different buyer than I call them just your typical buyer that has money to spend. They're pre-approved, but they don't want to do any renovations. They want to move into something that's fixed up, nice, ready to go. An example, a semi in Burlington came on the market on last Thursday. Okay, nice area of Burlington. Nicely done inside and outside. Backyard had nice double, different level decking. Inside was modernized. The house on the street down the road sold for $890 in January. Similar house. Agent put this one on at $874.9. Did not put an offer date. Okay. Had 16 different groups through on the open houses over the weekend. Had 3 offers come in Sunday night. Sold for $915. Okay. Where I'm going with this is, if you have a good property and you price it right, okay, the market's there. Okay. Don't think that there is no market. 4,037 units have sold. Okay? Just so far. That's just what's reported. Now, if you have two agents on that deal, there's now 8,000 ends, over 8,000 ends that have happened, and that's not on all the real estate boards in Ontario. So what is it that you're doing to make sure that you are communicating with consumers, right? That, again, it's all about the consistency of what you're doing. How are you responding? How are you, how is your enthusiasm about this real estate market? If it's crap, you're going to attract crap stuff, right? So you got to be positive. You got to go out there, but you got to know the market. You got to know, hey, like, you're not telling me, like right now, I'm telling some of my clients, like, man, there's opportunities out there. And I explain these two here and they're going, you're kidding me. No, this is what happened. Hey, if you see anything else like that, let me know. Well, sometimes there's only one of, but there's other, you just got to keep looking, but you have to keep communicating. Okay. That's the important part. The other thing is, what do you know about the rest of the Canadian marketplace? Okay. Do you think all of it has slowed down? Vancouver's, yep.
Being too, it was high like us.
Yeah. So big metropolitan Vancouver has slowed down.
Quebec is doing better, Montreal.
Okay.
It's booming, they said.
Yeah. So Alberta, Saskatchewan, basically, let me correct this. The prairies, Quebec, Atlantic Canada are all a seller's market. Low inventory, prices are rising, multiple offers.
But they were not as high as us, right, before, like
No.
in the boom time. So
No.
now they're kind of catching up.
But
Supply is
Yeah,
less.
supply is not there.
Yeah,
Supply is
Right.
not there.
Supply is
here,
not there,
Same interest rate.
right? Same interest rate, prices are lower. I get it. But understand, like, that pendulum will swing. Okay. So if I'm recommending you talk with any consumers, you got to let them know, hey, by the way, like, Canada's doing well. Yeah, the metropolitan areas have taken a little bit of a pullback, but right now, like in the other areas of Canada, and I know from history, if it's doing that there, it may take another year, but it will come back here and it'll be strong. But why not buy or invest right now in the communities of Ontario, where a year from now, like next spring versus what we see this spring, election's already done. Tariffs are going to be all figured out. Interest rates are going to be lower. I don't know, sounds like a perfect storm to me, right? And if it's busy in those other provinces, that's going to swing this way. So I wanted to let everybody know about that. Other things that you could be doing, okay, is make sure when you're communicating with your database or you come across a consumer, make sure you send out, hey, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks for, let him, even if you're door knocking, make sure you send something. If you're online and you're chatting with somebody, reach out to them and just say, hey, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I was out to dinner with a very good friend of mine who runs a large, I'm going to call it a construction company, but it's really a niche. He basically does all the underground servicing, majority of the underground servicing for large water mains. And really nice guy, very smart. We're out to dinner and we're talking about, just servicing people and getting back to people. And I said, in your big corporation, what's your best tool? Chat GPT. I said, how can it be Chat GPT when you're dealing in this huge industrial business? He said, simple. He said, let me show you. He goes on his phone and he literally goes, Chat GPT, I'd like to send a nice thank you letter to my friend Scott Gilmore from Realty Executives. Thanks for taking the time to spend dinner with me at, he names the restaurant. It was great seeing you here. I hope you enjoyed the meal I was having. It was great to share this bottle of this wine. It was so, and he just dictates it, goes click. He says, I was out for a nice thank you note to send to you tomorrow. It was seconds, but it was personalized. Which was like, I know when you know, everybody said, well, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? Right? It was speaking into it with the personal stuff that everybody, you can talk about it, but I know people get, when it starts doing this, it's like, oh, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? And he does that for everybody in his everybody in his company. That is his company thing. You meet with somebody, you send them either by email, text, whatever, but he says you make it personalized, use the app, make sure it's personalized, check it. But that was so cool. And he did, like he said, watch, I'll do the same thing with the maitre d' who's been helping us. And he just said the maitre d's name, went through, you know, thanks very much for this, and this. Goes, look, there's that one. He said, I'll send that one. You just send that off tomorrow morning. It was a great tool. Okay. So I highly recommend, if you're not using it, even just for that specific use, it was really like done, personalized. And he says, I can even add photos to it. So
Free, and then if you want more, you pay.
I didn't ask it. I don't care if it's cost you 25 bucks a month. Like it's a tool you all should be using. It might be free. I don't know.
I remember Corette was using that
Yeah.
as that, and she.
Yeah, it is free.
It's
Chat-
free, but if
Chat
you want-
GPT is free. You have 5 free photo generators a day. And if you want more than that,
Then you
then
pay.
you pay. But yeah, 5 free in 24 hours. I'm in marketing. I haven't used more than that.
Anyway, so
But it's still worth it if you have
Yeah.
to pay the extra.
that would be my
Yeah.
tip of the day. If you're not using it for just doing thank you notes or appreciative letters, it was brilliant. It was just speak into it as if you were, you know, you're just talking about the situation, what happened. It was done in seconds. Okay. Understand that this market you're in right now is nothing but numbers game. Okay. We've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. Real estate, since I've been in it since 1980, is a numbers game. That is never going to change. Okay. The more leads you buy, if you're buying leads, the more opportunities that you'll have to convert somebody. The more doors you knock on, the more open houses you sit on, the more letters you send out, the more emails you send out that are personalized, not just a standard stagnant information. Okay. It is this market for agents that are working smart and keeping track of what they're doing, okay, and being active daily and weekly is a great market. I talked with my brother Grant. We were out to dinner with him and Shelley on Monday night. Understand he runs a team of 5 people. Okay. He's having one of his best years ever. And he does big numbers. But he said, I am on my phone, and he's a conversation guy, right? He's a conversation person. Michelle can attest to it. Like he's on his phone basically from 7:30 in the morning till about 9 o'clock at night, consistently. And all he is doing is communicating with people. Okay. He's the same one that coaches teams in Ontario. And last time I talked about just saying add one person to your database a day, right? For 300 days the year. He started doing that. He now has 3,500 people in his database that he nurtures. He's going to, right now, I think he is at 20 deals for the year so far, and he's on target for 50. So, but he said, if it wasn't for my conversations that I'm always on the phone, following up, communicating, like just talking to people about what's going on in real estate, said I wouldn't be doing it. If I just relied on the online leads that we were doing, he said, wouldn't work. If we door knock, we do online leads, we do open houses, we're doing Facebook paid ads. He says, we're doing everything. but we're on the phone all the time. Right? So if you make that commitment, the business is there. Okay? It's there. The business is always there. People always have to buy and sell. Right? So it's numbers. And all of you have the ability. There's not one of you here that does not have the ability to be consistent, work a plan, and be very, very successful for many years to come, no matter what the market does. Lower interest rates, higher interest rates, tariffs, no tariffs, elections, doesn't matter. You just have to create the plan, work the plan. And it does, it works. Right? Who's having success out there doing any of the activities? Elroy, how are your open houses going?
Sorry, I had to get the mute off. Open houses were quiet. I think the weekend
Okay.
weather was too nice. Everybody was in their yards.
Yeah, okay. Good,
So,
but at the same time, did you have anybody through?
yeah, I had one couple through that can't, well, besides you and Nadine, but I had another couple come through that very interested, but they might have something to sell first. So there might be another listing coming out of that one.
I'm sorry, so one person
Sorry.
through and the possibility of one community, you've got somebody's information.
Yeah, I got someone's information. They're very interested in the property they looked at, but they got something to sell first. So there could be another listing coming.
Wow, all because you were sitting on a nice sunny day in front of a house.
Yeah, you saw my chair out the front step.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
And I do like that, I did comment, I did like the idea that you finally got that waterfront rider on there, so that's good.
yeah.
So,
I had my sign guy make a couple because we didn't have any in our office anywhere.
yeah, good. So again, it doesn't matter how many people come through, okay? Open houses work if you do enough of them, right? If you just do one and nothing happens and you go, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Well, I'm sorry, that's not business. So if you're gonna do open houses, schedule them, be consistent with them, understand on how and what you're going to do when people are there, right? What kind of dialogue, what kind of questions, what kind of forums do you have? Is there any giveaways? I know we went to Elroy's open house. My wife came home with an ice cream scoop with his name on it. I'm going, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, it was a great handout. So all I'm trying to say is if you're active and you're consistent, doesn't matter what's going on. Interest rates didn't move, doesn't matter. Okay? It's all about communicating with people on a consistent basis. People always have to buy and sell. They have to live somewhere. Okay? Other tip that I'm going to give you is in this kind of marketplace, you have to make something look like an amazing value. Okay? And sometimes it's price, but sometimes it's not. Right? It's how are you presenting? Okay? We have a two-bedroom condo, two-bath condo for sale. Per square foot costs, it's $667 a square foot. Builders are right now, they can't build for less than $1,100 a square foot. To me, that's the marketing. Like builders costs, right? This cost. So it's not the actual asking price. It's what can you do? How can you market whatever product you have to make somebody go, oh, geez, that's a great deal compared to a builder? Like it's almost half price. Right? That's the marketing play in that particular one. Okay. Another one is if depending on the product you have is don't look at advertising the actual price. What's it going to cost them to carry it? How is that compared to renting the same kind of property? Probably going to be a little bit more. But the idea is nobody buys the property based on price. They buy it on, you should be doing this, is you're basically selling them a property based on the fact of this is what your monthly cost is going to be. Price has nothing to do with it. Right? Because actually, when you look at it, when you get a sign back, and I hope you guys are doing this, this is negotiation 101, is in the event you are representing a buyer and you get a sign back, lots of times you'll come back and you'll get, you know, 10 or 15 or $20,000 sign back, let's call it. Do yourselves a favor. Don't go to them and say, oh, by the way, they signed it back for 20 grand. They actually signed it back for $48 a month. All right. So basically for $1.25 a day, you could own this house. Bring it down to where reality is. And they may turn around and go, but it's $20,000. Yeah, it's 20 grand, but it's this value. The property itself, where the valuation is great value. Now it's just a matter of, is the $1.25 a day something that you, whatever the number is, but it's right around there. I've had it to the point where I literally got people where they're going like, why are you trying to sell us this? I said, just get rid of the coffee, that Starbucks coffee once a week, and you can live in this house. I've had this happen, right? Where they looked at me, I go like, said, I believe this is the great house for you. Forget the price. You're going to live here for a while. That 20 grand difference, it's just going to get washed away. The market's going to go crazy again. Don't know when, but it will. It always does. But you can be into this house for this much per day. And then shut up. And just let the two of them or the buyer digest that. Next person that talks loses. Okay? And sometimes you have to sit there for like 5 minutes.
Next feels like an hour.
Feels like an hour. Even a minute feels like a long time. But especially if they're spouses or people buying together, you gotta let and just shut up and just let them look at each other. And I've had this happen where the guy has looked and he said, I told you, we just gotta cut out that one thing and we could live here, right? And then it's a matter of, here's the pen. Great decision. Just sign here, right?
And,
You're in sales, but only do that if it's the right property for them. Okay? But you're all in sales. Real estate is sales. You've got to get it down, get away from, you know, I know with, you know, COVID and everything, prices were everything, doesn't matter. What's the price? I don't care. But now this is a normal real estate market. You've got to get it to the point where understanding that they are owning real estate based on a monthly cost. The price means nothing. Okay?
sign backs can go back and forth several
Oh,
times. I remember
yeah.
back in the 80s and 90s, we would be taxing them for, they would be
Yeah.
rough, you couldn't even read them.
And that's where, when you're negotiating with buyer on the one side or the seller, you have to keep the transaction going, okay? Even if it's a minor change or you're going back with the same offer,
Right.
you've got to keep the transaction going. A lot of agents stop just before one of the parties is going to agree. Okay? Like and it happens. I've had it where we were a buyer, or representing a buyer, and we didn't want their old appliances. So we didn't put them in. Presented the offer, got a sign back, and they put in the appliances
They didn't want it either.
because they didn't want to deal with it. We took them out, but they put them back in. I said, okay, finally. So finally, I just said, look, if I take the appliances, will you two parties agree? And they went, yeah, we don't want to deal with them. No problem. Deal done. I said, I'll remove them, my cost, I'll get rid of them. And the deal got done. So you have to keep that deal going because you don't know at what point one of the parties is going to go, okay, you know what? We tried, this is the best we can do, let's move on. Okay? So all I'm trying to say, this is a normal market. Okay? Yes, the interest rates didn't fall. No big deal. Yes, we're dealing with tariffs. They're going to all get figured out. Election's going to be over. This spring, okay, you give it another, get the weather going, you give this another 45, 60 days, buyers are gonna be coming out of the woodwork.
They can see it already.
It's already starting, like you can see where, you know, like we talked about a couple opportunities here. They all had multiple offers. We look at anything that's going on outside of our province, except for, let's call it Vancouver area. There's opportunities, there's stuff happening, agents, prices are going up. Okay, that pendulum will swing back. Immigration will get increased. Where do they mostly go? Ontario. So right now, Ontario is prime. But if you don't believe it, then you're not going to attract the consumers, right? You're going to actually deflect them away. So do your research, make sure did everybody like, I'm sure like all of you knew all about what I just said, what I checked into, right? You all knew about that great opportunity in Lake Erie, that great opportunity in Wasaga Beach, that the rest of provinces across Canada were all doing quite well in a seller's market. Do your research, be informed, be up to date on everything. And all you got to do is communicate that, because consumers now are looking and really need the professional, which you all are, but lots of times we as professionals get lazy and go, out the market's slow, there's really not much for me to do. Yeah, there is. There's always something to do. There's always someone to communicate with. There's always activities you could be doing. And all the consumer is looking for is the one person that can guide them. Okay? That's the biggest point I wanted to point out to everybody, is it doesn't matter where you are in Ontario. There's opportunities. Okay? There's activity happening. You just need to be consistently out there to be able to get your share of it. And the conversation, the actual live conversation, is still the best. I was on a session with Inman, Inman is a big company in the States that tracks all kinds of real estate stuff. Okay. Yeah. The number one response people are getting right now, direct mail pieces. It's not online leads. It's direct, touchy-feely, okay, printed pieces. Because nobody's doing it. Very few people are doing it.
Like-
Flyers, yeah.
So many-
Direct handwritten notes, right? So make sure that you understand consumers right now are bombarded. I don't know how many emails you all get, but my inbox is full of stuff that I get daily. And do I get to it all? Not a chance. I get a piece, someone gives me a piece of note, literally a handwritten note. I was on a session, a handwritten note, a letter got delivered here to me personally, just talked about some of the comments I made during the actual session. And it turns out that this person is an accountant that specializes in the PREC, so Personal Real Estate Corporation. Well, I look at actually it was Michelle said, look where this letter's from. It's from the town that my mom and dad were from in Ontario. Like, you talk about, and she didn't even know them. So now it's like, absolutely. I called her back. Thanks for a great handwritten note. I had no idea you're from Elmont. She says, yeah, I'm living in Elmont. I said, my mom and dad are from there. So you never know. Now, would I have gotten that through an email? Not a chance, right? I would have just, her email would have gone with everybody else that's trying to sell me junk, right? So Inman News, and now you're talking about this is a lot of their stuff's in the States, okay? Number one response, direct mail, printed pieces. So make sure you're doing part of that. Again, certain age groups may be different. But I can tell you, once somebody is in a property or they're interested, the one thing they're not getting a lot of is the touchy-feely handwritten notes, flyers, things like that. So if you're not doing it, if Inman News is saying that that's their number one thing that they're getting right now, they've done their research. Yeah, question? Yeah, next.
I think the direct mail, it depends on where you are, because I would never do flyers here, ever. Because everybody is on a PO box, and when you sign up for your PO box, you can opt to not have any kind of junk mail. Although we think our flyers are not junk mail, but some people do. And anytime I've seen a mail out from an agent in the area, the recycle bin by the front door is full of those flyers.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
In the area where you live, do you have the ability to look at who owns the properties?
Yes.
Geo Warehouse?
Yes.
By law, if you put a stamp on an envelope with the owner's name on it, it cannot go to junk. It has to
Okay.
be delivered.
Okay, that's the direct mail part. I was referencing more the flyers.
Yeah, you're talking more of the ad mail stuff.
That's correct.
Yeah, generic ad mail, totally agree with that. But unless you hire somebody, and depending on the community you're in, to deliver them door to door. So, but the direct mail where you're actually mailing it to Mr. or Mrs. or whoever, whatever the address is, it has to be delivered.
Yeah, the direct mail, I agree with. I was more commenting, I was more referencing the flyers.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I agree. There's lots of that. I do know even James, when he has his flyers go out, he has had more success now door knocking with them or just walking the neighborhood and delivering them door to door because everybody has these super boxes and there's recycling bins right there. So
Yeah.
something to think about depending on the community you're in.
Yeah.
You may want to look at just, hey, you don't want to knock the doors, deliver the flyers, get some exercise or hire somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. But good comment. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, who's got it?
I have a question. What are your thoughts about people that are looking for deals in the pre-construction market that maybe are coming close to closing, in maybe assignments or people that are possibly losing their deposits?
From
What
which
is there,
point?
is there a strategy on that? In your,
Yeah, best strategy would be is the people that are in a position, if you have buyers that are on a position that they can close within 60 days, that's the best opportunity. Okay.
Mhm.
If you have somebody that's just looking at possibly taking over an assignment, but they can't close for another year or two, the motivation factor of the person doing the assignment's not going to be as great. So the best opportunities are the ones right now where they are going to be in a position where basically what happens first, especially in the pre-con condos, it'll be occupancy. They'll be given the occupancy date, and it may still be 9 months after that fact before it gets registered. But with pre-con on the occupancy date, you have to show that you have all the funds available, right? That's the time frame where the best opportunities are. Okay. The other opportunity is actually with builders right now that may have standing inventory. they won't reduce the price as much, but the amount of incentives and upgrades and extra parking I'm hearing now are being given for free to try it. And so things like that. So don't forget about the existing inventory that builders have is another opportunity. Okay. I do know of one builder that recently gave out a 10% commission just because they wanted a unit sold. Okay. So that would be an opportunity. But the best one, Julia, would be, but your buyers have to be really like in a position where they are ready to close. Financing in place, not a question. That's where the motivation is going to come from.
So their financing numbers have to be pretty solid in terms of, like, they have to finance the balance, plus they have to repay the deposit. So this is going to be somebody that's not close to the loan to value line.
Right. Now, there is another opportunity that you may want to look at is if there are any of the people in a position that have to close or occupancy is coming up. If your buyer's in a position where they may not be able to do the whole transaction right away, but they can facilitate the closing, you can enter into a partnership agreement with the first buyer to do a buy takeout. So they participate. There's a legal document the lawyers can do where they now become a partner in the original agreement. They facilitate the occupancy costs and they set a sale price, okay? When the actual closing takes place, registration takes place,
Wow.
okay? So there are those opportunities out there. So
What I'm hearing is people walking away from $100,000 or $200,000 deposits.
Yeah.
The property still doesn't appraise at today's value. So whoever's buying it as an assignment and they go for a mortgage, it won't appraise that high. So they'll need even more down before they can close the deal. So those people are not something I'm aware of.
well, the other thing the other thing buyers have to understand, if they don't close, it's not that they just lose their deposit. They can get sued, right? Builders will sue, and builders have, they've got money for lawyers. So they hire them and they just start. Okay. But yes, but you got to make sure your buyer's in a position that, they're not just saying, well, if you come across this, I might be able to do it. They've got to have the funds available. They got to have a letter, ideally a letter of credit from their financial institution saying, yes, they're in a position, they have this available, and not a pre-approval. It's an actual letter of credit from the institution.
Wow.
Okay.
What would be the best source to find them, just to reach them and, there's no certain, the sellers, those kinds of situations, those kinds
There's a
of,
group of WhatsApp.
Canadian, there's,
No, a lot of agents have created many
yeah,
WhatsApp.
many of them, but not all of them. There's no place, maybe
Well, you can't-
Canadian
you can't
assignments,
listen.
and Facebook has lots of them.
Yeah.
I know, some of the Facebook groups.
Because you're not allowed to list them on
You're
MLS,
not allowed- Yeah,
right? So you've got to
that's
be,
why I'm asking,
so make
unless
sure-
it's not possible.
just make sure you're part of any of those kind of groups.
Groups, yeah.
The other way to also is reach back out to the builders, because lots of the builders in their agreements now, at least the ones that were done recently in the last 2 or 3 years, have it that if you are going to assign or rent your unit, it has to go back through the builder's representatives. So the builders will have some as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, input? Give me some information. What's going on in your area? Amanda, are you just listening? Or are you there? She's just listening.
It's a GPT.
Yes. Because it's, like I do my own research. Obviously, I'm a member of 9 different boards. So I can do the research, but it's always good to hear from what's going on in the areas directly, right? Clarence, are you still there? Nope. Okay. Kelly, are you available there?
There, Scott, am I unmuted now?
Oh, there you are. What's going on in
Yeah.
Peterborough and the surrounding areas?
Well, I pulled out 4 interesting things today. New listings coming on are down, believe it or not, year over year, down 92% compared to last year. The number of new listings coming on.
Okay.
The showings, though, to up to the 1st of April are up 42%. And you got to remember, up 42%. The number of showings, and that's in a disaster area that we've been in the last month. And then
Right, because of all the ice
Uh,
storms and stuff, yeah.
yeah, all the trees down, hundreds of them. Anyway, and the average sold price last year at this time was sitting at 627, and the average sold this year is 672. And
Wow.
so the prices, I'm not saying the list price went up, but the average, I think we wiped out the 499 ones and stuff maybe, and just if you're on the market. But the average market time for the ones that sold, 36 days. So that's a pretty active market, I think, if you're
Yeah.
priced right. Because
Yeah.
remember the good old days, it was 60 or 90 days. But if it's taken
Yeah, that was
36 days to sell,
that's
so
very
we're
good.
primed to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's where telling those situations to buyers that are sitting on the sidelines right now, right? That's the thing. How do you motivate the buyers that are sitting on the sidelines? Share with them the opportunities that they missed out on, or friends of theirs missed out on. And they're going, well, I wouldn't have been interested in that property anyways. Well, except here's the situation is, as all this stuff starts selling and people start seeing sold signs, the market pendulum, and then all of a sudden, and by the time the media comes back and you as consumers hear it from the media that the market picked up, we've already seen it for 2 months. Right? So thanks, Clarence, for that update. That's great. Oh, is she? Okay. So the whole idea, okay, is communication, 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 right? And they talk about real estate being location, location, location. As a realtor, it's communicate, follow up, communicate, follow up, communicate, 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 right? And if you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, are you doing, be honest with yourselves, are you doing a good job of being consistent with looking for new business, following up with existing business, and tracking your numbers? And if you're not, and you need some help, reach out to me, because we'll put together a plan. If you are, then just keep doing it, because you're going to see results. Consistency wins all the time. And I don't care what the market is. Okay? You're all very good at what you do. You're passionate about what you do. You represent your consumers and your
Got
clients.
one more comment.
Yeah.
One more comment. Thank you very much for that Collingwood, or going to see that lady. She
Yeah.
thinks you're a gentleman and a good looking one. So she
Wow.
loves you. There you
Wow.
go.
Well, that's great. So does that mean we
So
get the
be
listing at a
patient.
better price? I know.
Well,
Oh,
we
yeah.
got to be patient. Yep.
When
A big
when
move
I
for
was-
her.
and that's where I was referencing. That's where I said sellers taking longer to get ready to sell was the number one on my notes, because when I walked through that place and your daughter was gracious, she was working her tail off, helping there. I looked at it, I said, so you guys are telling me 2 weeks. I'm looking around going, wow, that is gonna be tough. So, but it'll be close. It'll be close. Yeah. So
She'll get it done.
Oh, yeah. No. everything takes time, but just thank you for that referral. We're gonna work on that one once it's ready, and the timing is gonna be really good for that. So, but again, communication, right? You just gotta communicate, follow up, follow up, add to your database, and it doesn't matter what the heck's going on in the marketplace, there's business. The numbers show it. Okay? Any other comments before suggestions? Any questions on any topic? Well, hopefully this information was beneficial to the point that I know lots of you were disappointed that the interest rate did not go down because everybody thought that was going to kickstart the business. Business is there, right? So just got to keep doing, as I say, your daily and weekly, track your numbers. If you need any guidance whatsoever, reach out. We'll figure out a plan for you that works for how you want to do your business. And beyond that, everybody have a wonderful Easter weekend. Oh, Elroy has a quiz.
I'd like to know what made the bottom of this tree blanch like that.
First of all, where is the tree?
Right at the water's edge.
On your lake, where you are?
Yep.
Was it there during the fall or was it only there this spring?
This is a new development after winter.
After winter. Wow. I don't know, but
I'll give you guys the answer. This is a beaver damage. This tree is toast.
okay. Yeah.
I've got 3 like this on my property now. I got some firewood coming.
All right, so that is, I was gonna figure it had to be some kind of animal. I didn't know if it was insects, infestation, or as you say, beavers. Wow.
Yeah, that is the rotten beaver on the shoreline. Having winter snacks.
Wow. Well, that is, well, then we're all now more informed.
They were
Well
here
done.
before us, so you should respect that.
Pardon, Nancy?
They were here before us, so you should respect that.
Oh, I agree. But there's lots
Yeah.
of other trees. You don't have to pick on that one.
You're right. All right, everybody have a great long weekend. Happy selling and great opportunity to communicate every day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.